Om Shanti everyone. My name is Jishta Kadir and I'm 14 years old and I'm from Harrisburg. I hope you all enjoyed this wonderful program. Sometimes we fear things in life and don't know how to overcome it. Today's session will help you to understand and overcome a common fear we all share. Some key notes. Everyone will be muted for now so that there are no disturbances or distractions throughout the program. If you have a question at any point, feel free to type it in the chat or raise your hand, which is in the Participants tab on Zoom. You can also wait until the end if you want. If you're in your car or somewhere else, please be safe and be aware of your surroundings. Please try to stay until the end because the question and answer session will be very helpful and enjoyable. Questions are a great opportunity to understand and share. Blessings will be given at the end of the program, so please stay tuned. For those of you that are new, there will be a link to a Google form provided in the chat box that you can fill out with your contact information for future updates and events and for more information about Brahma Kumaris, if you feel comfortable. Your personal information will never be disclosed or misused. So I was first introduced when my mom's friend referred to her about Brahma Kumaris. So we went to the Cinnamon Center, and when I went with my parents for the first time, I was not very interested, but they encouraged me to try it. That moment changed my life for the better. I felt a wonderful spiritual connection with God at that very moment. My mom went on to take the free of cost Raj Yoga meditation course with Sister Kanishta and Brother Shweta, which gave her deep insights into life. She has also been very involved with Brahma Kumaris, and as a result of that, I saw her life change for the better. There was also more spiritual energy at home. Furthermore, I also felt my life change. I was able to concentrate more on my studies, and as a teenager, I was less upset or moody in a way. Recently, I have not been able to partake in the morning meditation, but I did used to wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning for the meditation. That really did help me, but for me, it's hard to wake up that early in the morning, but I do try if I can. Sometimes I'll wake up and just sit there in remembrance. A couple of years back, I had the chance to visit South Carolina and Georgia with my mom and participate in the annual Peace in the Park event that is organized by Sister Kanishta and Brother Shweta, where I had the opportunity to perform a spiritual dance. I love dancing, and I was glad that I colored the day with my talent. Brahma Kumaris is an open platform where you can feel that connection with God, and He will help you reach your highest potential. Anyone and everyone is welcome because we are all one and the same. Moreover, everything that is offered is free because He is sharing His knowledge to us children. Some general information about Brahma Kumaris. Brahma Kumaris is a worldwide spiritual movement dedicated to personal transformation and world renewal. Founded in India in 1937, Brahma Kumaris has spread to over 110 countries on all continents and has had an extensive impact in many sectors as an international NGO. However, their real commitment is to helping individuals transform their perspective of the world from material to spiritual. It supports the cultivation of a deep collective consciousness of peace and of the individual dignity of each and every soul. Brahma Kumaris is the largest spiritual organization in the world led by women. It was the founder, Prajapita Brahma Baba, who chose to put women in front from the very beginning. It has set Brahma Kumaris apart from the stage of the world's religious and spiritual organizations. I would like to introduce Brother Shwetang and Sister Kanishta. Both of them are physicians and have been with Brahma Kumaris for many years. As I mentioned earlier, I met them when we did the online meditation course a few years back, which I recommend everyone to take. Such a profound wisdom, and that too, free. What a deal, isn't it?
Wonderful. All right. Thank you very much, Rishita. It is so nice to have an event emceed by a teenager, right? A young adult. You want to have your mom also come onto the camera so that your mom, yeah, this is the mom, yeah. So it's wonderful. It is so interesting how when children start a meditation practice because of their clean slate, if you will, are able to grasp it so quickly and so beautifully. We are also fortunate to, many of you have done the course, yeah, and some of you probably are very interested in doing the course, which will be starting very soon anyways. But we are fortunate too, although not as fortunate as the young people. Our slates are a little more dirty, but the good news is that we can always clean it. When you start the process of cleaning, it really doesn't matter too much how dirty or how not dirty it is, because you're going to clean it anyways. And this meditation truly has the ability to clean the slate beautifully. All right, so we are going to start the session. We see a lot of the same people, so welcome to all of you. It's always nice to see familiar faces. We had a great discussion last time. We all enjoyed it, and we're going to go even deeper this time. But for some of you who had missed the session last time, what we're going to do is to have a little bit of a recap. And it will be a very quick one, but those pearls of wisdom are so important that even if they are repeated multiple times, um, they are still going to be valuable, and you're going to enjoy them anyways. So now I request Kanishta to recap it for us if you can. Yeah, and then if you miss something, I'll help you out, and so on and so forth. All right, go ahead.
Om Shanti and welcome everyone. Very good evening. And also thank you for a beautiful introduction of Brahma Kumaris by sweet Rishita. Nice to have her MC like Shwetank was saying. It's very beautiful to see the young adults growing in such a beautiful way. So today, as you all know that we have this event where we are going to talk more about how to overcome death. We talked a lot about this topic last time, but there are many more things to understand, to know, to practice. So before that, I would like to recap a few things, very important and beautiful things that came up last time. So we started off with why it is important to overcome fear of death. And fear being a very negative energy, it's very important for us to achieve our full potential. And this is the reason why we have taken this topic of death. And then we also talked about how people view death. Many people, they want to ignore this topic. Many people deny to talk about it. But most important is to understand the dynamics of death, and then to accept it and to embrace it. So, understanding, accepting, and embracing. We also discussed that why it is so difficult for people to accept this concept of death. And acceptance is not possible, the reason being because of ignorance. There is not a clear understanding of death. This is the reason people don't want to accept death. And the reality is that death is inevitable. Death is the ultimate truth. Death is as real as life itself. Death is integral to life. We also talked about 6 different causes of fear. First fear is the fear of the actual process of dying. Second is fear of what would happen to the loved ones after we die. Third is fear of the pain that loved ones would go through as they die. That's the third one. Fourth one is what would fear of what would happen to us if our loved ones die. Fifth is fear of afterlife. That means what lies after transition. Sixth one is that we have added because of the coronavirus that we see in today's world, fear of dying alone. And also we added one more, seventh one, that is fear of not having any accomplishments to leave behind. So these are the 7 types of fear that we talked about. And we also used this analogy of a sentence that death is like punctuation in a sentence. Life is like a sentence and death is like a full stop or comma. And they provide necessary meaning to life. We then discussed about the most important cause of fear of death stems from attachment. So it's very important to practice non-attachment, detachment or non-attachment. And understanding that who is it that dies and what dies. Right? Really speaking, this physical body is going to perish, but important understanding is that we are eternal souls, the being, the life force, the energy, which is never going to die. So if I am not going to die, so why there is fear then? There should not be any fear if I am not going to die. Soul is eternal, imperishable. So it's very important to internalize that you are a soul, and this practice will really help us to overcome death. So the choice is yours. We talked about that there are 2 paths. One path is the path of fear, and another is the path of courage. Which path you want to choose? If you practice soul consciousness, that means you're a being with that consciousness. If you're living your life, that means you have chosen the path of courage, because soul consciousness is the door, towards that path of courage. And then we also talked about how the physical things in the world, they are perishable. They are not constant. They're subjected to change. But spirituality is what is constant. It is never going to change. And then we talked about how this life is cyclical and there are 4 phases. There are 4 phases. Um, for example, we talked about day-night cycle, and then there are 4 phases in day-night cycle. That there is dawn, and then there is day, then there is dusk, and then night. Similarly, there are 4 phases in season, like spring, summer, fall, and winter. Similarly, lifetime also has 4 phases. There is birth, then there is childhood, then maturity, and then old age. Similarly, we can see death also in 4 phases. So one is the process of dying, and then the death itself, then there is transition, and then transition beyond death, that is again life begins. So there are 4 phases. So this is what we discussed, and we ended with this, that it's very important to learn how to die. But the art of dying comes with art of living. That means we need to understand how to live our life fully. Once we learn how to live our life fully, then it will be easy for us to die. Die not with no fear. And also, one very important thing that we discussed, that death is like as if we are taking a pause to sleep, and it's very healing. Just like we go off to sleep to heal our physical body, similarly, death itself is a healing process. Death can be a time for you to be before you move on to the next life. And death is a celebration in itself. There is no need to worry about it. So these are the main points that we discussed last time. So now I would request Shwetan to move forward and take us into more depth of this subject of death.
Of death. Uh,
Depth of death.
that's fun right there. Thank you very much, Kanishka. Appreciate your recapping the entire session. There is a lot to learn, clearly. I'm sure you're looking forward to what's next. Today, I want to dive into something a little different. I want to talk about near death experiences and end of life experiences. And from that, I'll try to tie up all these fears of death and how um, they are not really rational. They are not really real. And so we keep creating these illusions of fear. Fear itself is an illusion. Illusion itself is the reason for fear, but the illusion of fear is something that we keep creating, and you'll realize that you don't have to. So I have a little bit of a PowerPoint presentation because I was earlier thinking of not using it, but then I realized that it could be a good thing to do it. That way you guys will get a much clearer perspective. So this is usually the PowerPoint that I use when I present about death and dying in general as a workshop, but I'm taking only a small part of it. Yeah, so here, this is about near-death experiences. So what has happened is over the past 20, 30 years, there have been um, countless stories of or narrations by people who have had this kind of an experience where they felt as if they died, and clinically also they were dead. In fact, the doctors at the hospital or any other healthcare professional would consider them to be dead. Clinically, there is no sign of life, but then they would come back again, and they would come back to share their stories, their experiences of what happened. By the way, before I continue, I would love to request all of you and most of you, if you can, to come on the camera. We would love to see all of you. Uh, that way, it's a good participation. And as Rishita had mentioned, you're welcome to interrupt me at any time. You're welcome to ask me as many questions as you want. If you have a comment, you are welcome to share that too. There is somebody who is checking on the chat box anyways throughout, and you can also raise your hand, and that way we will know. All right. And so don't hesitate at any point. Last session I had mentioned, and I'm wanting to at this point to kind of reiterate that it doesn't matter to me. My chain of thoughts won't be broken. You are welcome to interrupt me at any point. So anyway, so these experiences have taught us a lot. So let's go into few of these. Yeah. So this is a description of near-death experiences by a physician. His name was a very famous physician, Dr. Pim van Lommel. So let's listen to what he has to say. So when he comes back, all right, he came back into life, and he said that I was enveloped by light. People experience. So he said that there was an experience of total acceptance and unconditional love, and there was a deep access. There was an access to a deep sense of knowledge and wisdom, indescribable clarity and insight. There was someone else, I think, who had described this as the pinnacle of everything there is, of energy, of love, especially of warmth, of beauty. Then someone else described this as it seemed as if time and distance didn't exist. I was everywhere at once, and sometimes my attention was focused on something, and I was there too. I asked if God was the light, and the answer was no. God is not the light. The light is what happens when God breathes. Then someone else said, I think death is a real nasty bad lie. And on return, a single loving thought would let me be part of the whole again. So he went on to describe his own experience. I went through this dark black vacuum at super speed. You could compare it to a tunnel. I saw a bright light, and on my way there, I heard beautiful music, and I saw colors I'd never seen before. The light. So the light was of a kind that I'd never seen before, and that differs from any other kind, such as sunlight. It was white and extremely bright, and yet you could easily look at it. It's a pinnacle of everything there is, of energy, of love, especially of warmth, of beauty. I was immersed in a feeling of total love. Yeah. This physician, he was a neurosurgeon. He had a very bad infection, meningitis, and eventually ended up in coma. He died, quote unquote, died, and then he came back again. And so he wrote this book, which is called as the proof. The title is The Proof of Heaven. And in that, he describes this as I was encountering the reality of a world of consciousness that existed completely free of the limitations of my physical brain. My experience showed me that the death of the body and the brain are not the end of consciousness. And we have talked about it many, many times. The soul is the consciousness, the energy. Body is what it uses to express and experience all the things of the world. However, the body is not consciousness, consciousness is not body. Brain and consciousness are different. Brain and life is different. Brain is the physical aspect of our reality, whereas consciousness is the spiritual aspect of our reality. So even when we die, everything doesn't end. We don't die, actually. The body dies. Mm, the soul then moves on to the next body and into the next and the next. Some of you probably know about Anita Moorjani, and she was living in Singapore. This is how her story is. So she was living in Singapore, and there was a time when she got diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So lymphoma in general is a blood cancer, and that ends up with big size tumors everywhere in the body. Many of these tumors then compress on important structures of the body, like the heart, the lungs, and so eventually these structures, these tumors became very big, and she was close to dying. She had to be put on life support. She was in total coma, and there was a time when she was declared dead. All the physicians who were taking care of her declared her dead, and they were going to end everything, the life support and everything. But then she came back, and it's so interesting that when she came back, very soon her body began to heal very quickly. And non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, Hodgkin's lymphoma, for those of you from a physical, from a medicine background, would know that it's not very easy to get cured of. But within 3 or 4 days, she somehow miraculously began to heal, that her kidney function came back, Her lungs began to work properly, her liver started working well, and she was taken off life support, that is the intubation and all that. And eventually, in the next 2 3 weeks, her cancer totally disappeared. This is very interesting. Her cancer totally disappeared. So she went on to writing this book, Dying to Be Me. And that she describes, and she has become a popular speaker and giving TED Talks and traveling around the world. So she has written, I continued to sense myself expanding further and further outward, drawing away from my physical surroundings. It was as though I were no longer restricted by the confines of space and time, and continued to spread myself out to occupy a greater expanse of consciousness. I simultaneously experienced a sense of joy mixed with a generous sprinkling of jubilation and happiness. She also describes in that book and in her TED Talks that how there was a point when she could see what was happening in the room, that she was as if somewhere up there close to the ceiling and looking down at her body and all these medical equipment connected to her, these monitors beeping around, and these doctors trying to revive her, her family members around. And she even could see her brother who was coming from a different town, different place. I don't know where exactly he was located, but she could see all that more than what we can ever see in when we are in this mortal coil of the body. And it's so interesting. It's not just this person, but pretty much all these experiences that have been documented. There is a famous researcher called as Raymond Moody who has done a lot of work on this, and not a single um, description of the near-death experiences. Now we call these as near-death experiences, sh- talks about anything less than these experiences that I have shared. So, and then she also says in her story, then I was overwhelmed by the realization that God isn't a being, but a state of being. And I was now in that state of being. So, what we have realized over these many years of research is that there are certain commonalities in how people really die. Because those who really transition to the next life, we will never really know what transpired during the transition. But for those who came back and shared their experiences, we can know from those. And that's what we have derived. The first thing is that each one of them describes a crystal clear consciousness, despite total cardiac arrest, despite no flow to the brain and a flat EEG. Like ECG or EKG, that is for the heart, the electrical activity that we determined. That similarly, the electrical activity of the brain is called as EEG. So there's no flow to the brain, documented, no flow to the brain. Our brain is dead, dead like dead, yet they have crystal clear consciousness. So this clearly tells us that brain is not the seat of consciousness. In fact, brain is really the epiphenomenon of consciousness. Consciousness is primary, and pardon me, and the brain in fact evolves out of that consciousness. And the other commonality of these experiences was the a realistic out of body experience, a realistic out of body experience, as if I or the person is separate from the body. And we have known it all along, and these ancient mystics have known it, even in the philosophy of Brahma Kumaris, the body of knowledge, yeah, which you're welcome to also receive as a as free Raj Yoga course, which Rishita was talking about in the beginning. We talk about this whole understanding of the soul or the consciousness distinct from the body. And this consciousness can have a very realistic out of body experience, even without going through death, if you will, or going through a near death experience. But, anyways, they had this realistic out of body experience. All of them had a feeling of overwhelming love and peace. I will kind of say a little bit about. There were some experiences, some people um, had a delayed feeling of this love and peace, and I'll explain later. If I forget, remind me, yeah, at the end, if I do forget to kind of talk about this. But in general, all of them had almost an immediate feeling that they were totally accepted, totally loved, and in immense peace. They all had an experience of tremendous ecstasy, and they met spiritual beings, yeah, and then going further into more commonalities, each one of them describes a panoramic life review, that they could see their entire life from day one when they were born to the last day, of all the good things they've done, all the bad things they've done, in a very non-judgmental way, but they were able to see it all. Mhm. And then they were all able to experience some energy which they, without any doubt, they could say there was God. And in fact, it has been seen that even the most agnostics, if the hardcore atheists, when they had life end of life experience, or near death experiences, actually, they had the feeling as if they met that um, super energy, supreme energy, and they use the word God themselves. Then they also had an experience of unlimited knowledge, a realm where all knowledge exists. Yeah, tremendous wisdom, a tremendous ability to understand everything very clearly. They were all shown the future, what's going to happen. Yeah, and good news was none of them were shown that they're going to become dogs or cats or animals or insects. Yeah, we talked about this last time, that the human soul always is born as a human, does not ever become an animal, an insect, a fish, a bird, or even a plant. A human soul always takes a human body. So they were shown the future, where they would be going, and so on and so forth. They also felt that they were passing through a tunnel, and there may be a couple of moments of darkness in the tunnel, but they felt as if they were moving towards a bright light or a being of light. Actually, many of them describe this light as not a non-living light, but something that was reverberating with life, as a being of light. Yeah, so they all then eventually, when they came back, it's so interesting that they found that their whole life got transformed. First of all, there was a clear reduction in the fear of death. Yeah, they weren't afraid of death as they were, or actually, it was more. Many of them had a complete um, elimination of fear of death in from their lives. They were then able to focus on here and now rather than this preoccupation with death. And that's what I was telling last time. The reason why we have to somehow be able to process death, that's what I saw in my life too, that when I am so much in this fear of death, I am unable to perform in the way I should be able to. In other words, I was not able to experience my true potential, or even to be able to use this true potential for anything meaningful in my life. I felt my life slipping away, yeah, because of this crippling fear of death. And so we too, on one hand, like Kanishta was sharing last time we had talked about, somehow either because of the fear of death, we kind of close our doors or windows to death. We hope that it will never happen, or it will happen in some magical way that we would never know about it. We won't have any problems with it. So it's not the right concept actually. Neither should we. Neither of these are good. So neither that kind of uh, fear of death, that crippling fear of death is necessary, nor should we ignore death, or nor should we even take it in a frivolous way as if it doesn't mean anything, it doesn't count. It is going to happen for sure. So, how can we prepare for it is important. So, think of it, if we have processed this fear of death completely, think of a situation right now for a little bit. Just imagine that you have completely processed your fear of death. You have no thoughts about death, preoccupation especially. Of course, having thought of death or understanding about death is very important. And to be able to put life into the right perspective helps, because and what really helps in this whole thing is understanding about death. So I'm not saying that you have no thought of death whatsoever, but the preoccupation of death and the fear of death, you think of it, you for a little bit, you have been able to totally eliminate that. Yeah, total elimination of fear of death. And you are able to bring yourself to here and now. They say um, past is history, the future is a mystery, the present is the most important time. And that's why it's called as the present. Yeah, present like a gift. See how much you can do, how much you can accomplish, how beautifully you can live life when there's no fear of death. Last time there was a young gentleman who had shared about about one of the types of fears which Kanishta was had recapped in the beginning, about the fear that I will die before I have had the chance to accomplish something meaningful. But you think of it, every moment that we live, we are so not present. Yeah, either we are in the past, either we are in the future, or somewhere else physically. Yeah, that we are not able to experience the beauty of each moment, the potential that each moment brings to us. And that's why we are not able to accomplish much. And that's why the looming fear of death becomes so overwhelming for us. You think of it from now onwards, if you can live every moment uh, in the moment, totally in the moment, be in the moment, then it wouldn't matter when you really die. Yeah, it could be tomorrow, it could be day after tomorrow, but you have lived so beautifully that you have no fear of not being able to accomplish what you wanted to accomplish uh, if death comes, right? Then uh, they were also able to experience a sense of relative invulnerability. Yeah, the more we think of ourselves as the body, we talked about this last time, the physical existence brings vulnerability because it's always changing, it is never constant. On the other hand, when we go into the spiritual dimension of our existence, everything is constant, nothing changes. It's beautiful, it's perfect, it's constant, constant, and always constant. And so therefore there is invulnerability. Then there is strong belief in continued existence. And I'm telling you, many of these people who had these near death experiences were total agnostics or even atheists, or some of them were absolutely dead against the idea of reincarnation or continued existence. And shift towards spirituality from materialism. Several people have shared that they no longer have desire to amass things. Yeah, I'm sure you all see how uh, consciously, unconsciously, you find yourself amassing things, right? More shoes, more cars, more this, more that. But materialism is totally anti spirituality. And so, more we amass, the more fear it generates. Whereas, the more we can let go of things, more we can experience the true beauty of life. And there was change in values, priorities towards love and caring for others. Yeah, rather than me, the selfishness went away, and the desire to serve others, altruism, yeah, mm, was developed in those people. They became more other centered, yeah, rather than becoming being egocentric. There was a tendency to love unconditionally, and there was increased empathy. There was decreased interest in status symbols and materialistic lifestyles. Yeah, how many of you feel that materialistic lifestyles don't really help? Yeah, I don't know how to go back to seeing your faces, because right now I can see only my screen, and so I don't know. But anyways, yeah, maybe at the end I'll ask you all. All right. So from a medical perspective, we think that death is a culmination of pain. Yeah, really think of it this way. It's very important to understand that we think that death is painful. However, actually, life is painful. Death is the culmination of pain, if there is. Yeah. I can tell you from my own personal experience as a cardiac anesthesiologist, as an intensivist, I have seen more deaths than probably all of you combined. And I have seen people in pain, of course, uh, during their life. But as they transition, as they die, I have seen that there is really no pain. Of course, I have no ways of going inside them to know what they are experiencing, but from their face, you can see it becomes extremely peaceful, extremely calm, extremely serene. Yeah, so it almost feels as if death helped them liberate themselves from pain. Yeah. So really speaking, if I were you, it is more important that we fear life rather than death. Mhm. Anyways, so this was um, near death experiences. So I'm going to escape out of this for a moment. I'm going to stop sharing the screen and see if anybody has anything to ask or say.
So, one question, brother. Can you hear me? Yeah. So, why do you think that when we meet the death, the transformation starts? Why we don't do that before that? So I saw your slide that when we meet, most of the transition happened once they met the death, and they come back, and a lot of transition happens. So, do you think that some energy, they when they go and meet the energy or supreme energy, and then something changes their whole life? Uh, can you just throw some light on that?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say. That um, it would be so interesting if we don't wait for death to teach us. Yeah, Before I even go into that, you will see, which I'm going to talk more in the end of life experiences. We have seen that when people get diagnosed with some sort of illness that they know they're not going to be cured of, like malignancy, like cancer or something, then their whole perspective of life changes. May, the day before they have the diagnosis, they will feel as if they are on the top of the world, like to spend. They may have 10 shoes, they may want an 11th shoe. Their whole wardrobe may be filled with clothes. They may want yet another dress for the party that is coming around the corner, and so on and so forth. They'll be selfish, egocentric, so on and so forth. And suddenly the diagnosis changes everything for them. Suddenly the reality of death becomes obvious in front of them. So this is one, but also then the end of life experience, or the, sorry, I keep saying end of life, the near death experiences that we've heard of. When they actually see death, they actually understand that how frivolous all this is in the larger context of things, and looking at the bigger picture. All this is so meaningless. And when they experience meeting God, if you will, the highest consciousness, and experiencing true unconditional love of God, that's what they say all the time, is true unconditional love, total acceptance. Yeah, and in that moment is this deep sense of healing. Yeah, and when they come back, then they feel, why am I running after all these things that I am running after? Yeah, what is the point of all that? And if you see, look at this experience of Anita Moorjani, who got totally healed of her cancer. Connecting to that highest consciousness enabled her to be able to harness that intense, that immense healing energy that healed her completely. No chemotherapy was working, and in few days, 10, 15 days, her whole cancer was healed. Isn't that interesting?
I would like to add few more things to what you said. Uh,
Okay.
I think because people are so much attached to the physical things of the world, there are so many strings they're attached to. They are kind of blind. Their their eyes are not able to see, not able to realize what mistakes they are making, and the transformation is needed. They are kind of blind. But the moment they leave the physicality and they are able to connect to their originality, that is spirituality, which they are not able to connect because of so many attachments. The moment that those strings of attachment are broken, they are able to connect. And then, if you remember, Shitang has shown one slide where he was talking about how they were able to see the panoramic view, what they did in their lives. So once they are able to see what they did, they get real understanding that this is what I did wrong or whatever. And then the realization comes to them that, wow, I did so many wrong things, which I shouldn't have done it, and I did it. So then the realization comes to them. And secondly, I feel that the power of love, it is said that love is transformational. When they are closely connected to the divine energy of God, God's energy, that love that they get, the kind of unconditional love, that helps them realize that the transformation is needed. So we
Thank
can
you.
even use, yeah, we can even use the analogy of a bird. A bird, if it is attached to the strings, it's not able to fly, it's not free to see the bigger picture. But the moment the string is broken, the bird is able to fly high, bird is able to see the bigger picture. So the soul is like a bird. It is in this cage. This body is like a cage. The moment it is released from this cage, the soul is able to see everything clearly. And then the realization comes, and realization is the step towards transformation. Self-realization leads to self-transformation.
Yeah. So, so this is interesting. Thank you. So clearly, death is nothing to fear, Mm, right? Clearly, right? From these many experiences, none of them shared anything negative about death. And I'll tell you, some of them had a little bit of negative experience, and I'll share that later. But in general, nobody talked about the pain of leaving the body or anything of that sort. And, and only great things happened once they had that leaving the body, leaving the mortal coil experience. They were able to connect to God. They were able to experience infinite potential. They were able to see the biggest picture ever. They were able to see future. They experienced true love, true acceptance, light, love, care, compassion, everything. Yeah. Yeah. They had all those experiences.
Yeah, and I think some of them, and many of them, I think they don't want to come back.
Thank you. Yes, many of them don't want to come back, but they are told that you still have something more to take care of in that physical body, so they were sent back. But what I'm trying to say now with all this is, and my hope is that we can also kind of look at it this way, that do we really need to go through death to have that kind of a healing experience or a liberating experience? Can we have that now? Yeah, can we have that now? You think of it in a way, every day we are dying. How we have, let me give you some perspective to this. Um, I had that math, right? Somewhere let me show you that slide. Where is that? Yes, let me show you this slide. So probably some of you would know this. I think most of you wouldn't know that. We have 37 trillion cells in the body. All right, 37 trillion cells. That means 37,000 billion cells. All right, or 37,000 million cells in the body. Every day, or every minute actually, 300 million cells die. So if you do the math, 300 times 60 times 24 is 432 billion cells die every single day. That means every day 2.6% of your body gets replaced. That means every 40 days your entire body gets replaced. So in a way, every 40 days you're totally dying and you're being reborn every 40 days. Can you believe that? And that's why I guess a Greek philosopher has said, you cannot step into the same river twice, because this was Heraclitus, a Greek philosopher. And he said, no man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river, and he is not the same man. Yeah. Because on one hand, this body is constantly changing. On the other hand, because of our experiences, yeah, the soul is also changing every day. Yeah. So you think of it, we are dying every day anyways. We are transforming every day anyways. If you look at it, every day when we go to sleep, we are dead from the world. You know? Anything is happening in the world, we don't know. Only the next day morning when we wake up, we switch on our televisions or or our computers and check the news or newspaper, and we read and know what is going on in the world. During those 6, 7, 8 hours, we are totally dead to the world. Yeah, so think of it in a way, we are dying every day and we are reborn the next day morning. But at least every 40 days, we are dying. Yeah, and truly speaking, people have said that if you don't want to even take this 40 days thing, because not all the cells get changed every 40 days, some cells change, some don't, and so on and so forth. But if you look at from our birth till our old age, at least 4 times the entire body gets changed. Yeah, you think of you remember your pictures from as a baby versus as a child that is going to school. It's totally different. There's just no similarity at all most of the times. Yeah, or then when you become mature, you get married and all, what is the face and other parts of the body, they look so different. And then when you are really old, all wrinkly, everything starts to sag, everything starts to break, all the teeth start to fall down. Yeah, see how the body changes. So we die anyways in multiple different ways we can look at this, but spirituality gives us the ability to have this near death experiences even without actually going through death. Yeah. As soon as you see yourself as a soul that is distinct from this body, and you have the experience of this soul leaving the body, that's a near death experience in itself, a very controlled form of near death experience. So we can also have the same kind of healing, the same kind of experience of love and total acceptance, the same kind of experience of God, yeah, the same kind of infinite intelligence can be totally accessible to us if we can create that experience for ourselves. Do you want to do that right now? It's very simple. Yeah, everybody wants to do it.
Yeah, brother. There is a one question from Nisha Talwar. You want to take that question? I wonder how did they describe God?
Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah. Before we go into that experience, we can definitely talk about these. Let me, yeah, I wonder how they describe God. All of them describe God as a totally accepting, uh, completely compassionate, uh, accepting, and unconditional love, yeah, totally peaceful, light, pure light, yeah, that kind of energy that doesn't judge, doesn't reject, just loves, love upon love. That's how they have described God. And that's how God really is. That's how the ancient mystics have talked about God. That's how the body of knowledge of Brahma Kumaris talks about God. All right. Is that good enough, Nisha? All right. And then um, from yes, then the cycle of life death, Lashonda has said, the cycle of life or death that one fears the most is more peaceful than the cycle of life itself, right? That's exactly true. Yeah, so we run from what is actually going to liberate us from all the pain. Yeah, and in the end of life experiences, I'll share more of how death can be actually a very healing experience. But before that, right now, shall we do a practice of out of body, uh, feeling of the soul leaving the body? All right, Kanisha, you want to take us through that?
Okay, so everyone, Settle yourself. Relax your body. And let go of all the tensions related to this physical world. Not thinking about the past or the future. Bringing yourself to here and now. Have this powerful awareness that I am a being of light. So visualize a spark of light at the center of your forehead, sparkling like a star. Remind yourself that this is who I am. The soul, the consciousness, the life force, living in this physical body. I, the being, am the one making this body move. But now, with this understanding that I am not this physical body, but a powerful healing energy, being of light. With this understanding, take this moment to visualize as if this spark of light is now moving upwards. For a few moments, just disconnect yourself from this physical body and feel as if this being of light has separated and flying like a bird, completely free, completely liberated, experiencing liberation, experiencing lightness beyond the space, beyond the time. And as this being of light is completely independent. It is very warmly received by a very bright light. So feel as if you are surrounded by beautiful energy. This energy is embracing you, giving you the experience of love, unconditional love, feeling of belonging, feeling of acceptance. You are completely surrounded by golden red light. Take this moment to absorb this golden light that is emanating pure love, peace, kindness, compassion. You are in this space where you feel very safe, very secure, very protected. You are into this beautiful experience, the kind of peace, the kind of love that you have been looking for. You are experiencing now. There is complete stillness, peacefulness, calmness in this healing space. Om Shanti.
How did you all feel? It's really as simple as that. Thank you, Kanishta, for the experience. Right now, you're in this body. In a second, you feel as if the light, you are the light, you're the energy. The energy has left this body. And suddenly, you have access to this immense love, immense acceptance, no judgment whatsoever, total healing, infinite intelligence. And you can collect all of that and bring it here. And you can heal yourself. How many times do you feel? Do you? I'm sure you do too. mm, a sense of as if nobody loves you, nobody cares about you, nobody accepts you, nobody understands you. Do you feel that? Uh, Raise your hand if sometimes you have that feeling that nobody in this world accepts you or understands you. And don't you have that feeling sometimes? People around you don't even understand you, don't even try to understand you. Yeah, you have that feeling? Yes, no. Raise your hand. Yeah, yeah. You all have that. Yeah. And these are negative energies. They destroy uh, our ability to heal ourselves. They don't give us the experience that life is supposed to give us. And if you step into that space, feel as if you have uh, lived your life and you are leaving this body, you have this experience of meeting God, receiving love, unconditional love from God, total healing from God. Bring it here. Isn't that beautiful? At any point, if you want infinite intelligence too, some people around you maybe call you dumb, do they? I wish you had more intelligence. Do they say that? See, now you can get that immense intelligence at your fingertips, total access. But now I want to talk about something else. I had earlier said that death can be very healing. Actually, healing is something that happens throughout our lives. On one hand, even as we are walking, yeah, doing things, the body goes through a little bit of degeneration, but the repair mechanism happens simultaneously. So we are constantly repairing ourselves, healing ourselves, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. So through the life that we are leading right now, there is healing happening. But there are four times when healing really happens for the soul. One is during the lifetime, during the moment of death, yeah, the last few moments, if you will, during transition, and then in the subsequent life. But what does this mean? That the soul or you have the opportunity to heal yourself, yeah, either in this lifetime, during the process of death, after life, that is the transition period, and then in the subsequent lifetimes. Now, why do we even need to heal? Because we do actions which are sometimes not the way we should behave. That's not in alignment with the laws of nature, if you will. They are not in alignment with what God would want us to do. If, say, we have selfish thoughts, if we have thoughts of hatred, animosity towards others, we are creating a lot of damage inside, lot of negative energy. So it is important that as we lead our lives, as we live this life, we somehow figure out a way to process these. If we have not been able to process in this lifetime, then we'll have to process it in the subsequent lifetimes. But death gives an opportunity to heal ourselves. And why am I saying all this is because now there is a lot of research that the couple of physicians in America have worked on this, that they were hospice doctors, and they would interview these people who would be end of life. They have had some diagnosis of cancer or something like that, and they're about to die. So it has been seen that in the countless stories of these people, that as they approach life, they begin to um, kind of have sort of what do you call visions of people who have died in the past, of their own relatives. It's
As
all
they approach death, right? As they approach death, that's what you mean.
correct. What did I say? Did I say something
As
different?
they approach life, you said so.
Sorry, as they approach end of life. Yeah, as
And
they, yeah. Sorry, thank you. As they approach death, they will have visions of their own family members. They will come there and they will kind of spend time with the soul. And there was one experience which is very important, and I'm going to share with you. There, one lady had had a very bad experience because of somebody else in her lifetime, early in her life, where a very close friend had betrayed her and done something really bad, and she was not able to forgive that person at all. She was holding a lot of negative energy in her heart for that person. And that person had already died before her, several years back. And so there was never a communication between that soul who had done that terrible bad thing to her. But so as she was dying, as she was approaching end of her life, she had a dream where this person came to her and apologized for all that he had done to her. And so before that, it was as if she was holding a lot of negative energy. And as soon as that person came in her dreams, and as soon as that person apologized to her, she felt free, and then she left, transition to the next life. So all of these people whom they were doing all these interviews on, they realized that there is something that happens during the end of life, which in some way or the other gives an opportunity for the soul to kind of resolve all the negativity that it has held on to through the lifetime. Then there are a lot of stories that we have heard from people who have the ability to kind of interact with spirits. And there are some stories where, say, people who have gone through lot of negativity in their lives, and then they thought that maybe suicide will help them, and so they kill themselves. And so these people, these spirits, would come to these people, and in the interactions would share that in that transition period they are having a lot of difficulty. And so what now we have understood is that that negative energy actually creates a cloud around the soul that does not allow God's energy to come and heal the soul. Is that making sense? Yeah. So, like if you remember when I was sharing about the near-death experiences, it was as if some guardian angels would would come to kind of help the soul to transition to the next life. That happens to all of us. That's why I was sharing that some people say that they have fear of dying alone, right? Especially because of the coronavirus. We know of so many souls who were in the ICU. They had a tube and they were dying, and then they didn't have their family members next to them. But even when they are alone, they are never alone, because always these guardian angels come to help the soul. But if there is a lot of negative energy that we have held on to, then these guardian angels are not able to come and help. Even God's energy is not able to come and help. That total acceptance, total love is not experienced by the soul. Yeah. So we need to be able to process all this negativity in this lifetime. The more we do that, the more the process of death will be easy and comfortable, more the transition will be comfortable, and the next lifetime will also be beautiful. Because here now I want to talk a little bit about the law of karma, because whatever energy we create is the energy we attract towards us. So if I do negative actions, if I go around being bad to other people, that negative energy is going to be held by the soul as it goes to the future lifetime. So if I haven't resolved it in this lifetime, if I haven't had the opportunity to resolve it in my end of life phase or during transition, then I'll have to resolve it in my next lifetime. Somewhere I have to do it. Yeah. And that's why I many times say that some people, when I ask people which kind of death would you like? And so most people would say, I would like to die like this. Yeah, quick. But then that doesn't give you the opportunity to really resolve all the issues. That is great. Yeah? You can have that kind of death if you have really taken care of your current lifetime so beautifully. You've lived very meaningfully. You have resolved all issues, all negativities. You have been able to cut all the strings of attachment. Then, yes, you can have a quick death. But what you have not been able to resolve in this lifetime, you need to have the opportunity to resolve during the end of life. That's what these different diagnoses of cancers, if you will, give people the opportunity to resolve. So in a way, those are not bad either. I'm not saying that we should invoke cancer or invoke these kind of illnesses, but what I'm saying is that none of these things are bad. What I'm trying to do is to change your perspective towards life, death, types of death, afterlife, and the next lifetime. Yeah, makes sense. All right. So mm, basically, if you have any questions, we can go into that. We can go deeper and deeper into this whole aspect, but I want to pause right now and see where you all are with what I've shared so far. Yeah, yeah. Can we unmute him, please?
Yes, I unmuted all the participants. So if you have any questions, you can unmute and speak.
So
Okay. Gotcha. Am I okay?
yes, I can hear you very well.
This is, I think I have a few questions, right? We talk about the way we are dying, there's a fear of death. I can relate some of the experience in that suppose I am in the water and I don't know how to swim. Sometimes I had a feeling that I'm about to die, right? So I always associate some kind of a concept of pain associated with that. So how do I get rid of that? Is that what you mean when you say you're dead, you're of the pain is gone and everything? Do you understand what it is?
No, I totally understand that. Yes, it is all the pain is before that those last moments of death.
Okay.
During death, there is none, but in a way, there is because look at it as say you're wearing very tight clothes, yeah, and you want to take off your clothes. It's going to be very difficult. Or you think of it as if you have put some sort of a favicol or glue between your clothes and the skin. When you take it off, it's going to hurt a lot.
Sure.
It's going to peel the skin. Similarly, if we have a lot of attachment with the body, then the soul, when it leaves the body, it's going to pull like this.
Okay.
Yeah, more the attachment, more the pain, if you will. Actually, not necessarily pain, more the suffering. You see, it's suffering at the level of the soul. Pain ends because body after a little bit of at certain point stops feeling anything. As soon as the blood circulation kind of decreases, very quickly actually the body and the brain stops feeling. It is the soul that experiences the suffering, because at that point the soul will think about all the things that it has not resolved, all the relationships that it still has some account that needs to be taken care of, maybe finances, maybe vacations that the soul had wanted to go for. All of these attachments will come in front of the soul as the soul is dying.
Okay.
That's why it's important for the soul to totally eliminate attachment. You have more questions, I think.
Yeah, another one I have is you mentioned about this karmic thing, and you mentioned that some things that you can resolve this life, you have an opportunity to do it in your next life, right? So what about the bad things you did? I mean, karma really tells you that if you did something bad, you'll be punished for that, right? So how does that enter into the equation?
Yes. So really speaking, there is no reward or punishment. Um, it is it is really, you get what you give out, if that makes sense. Yeah. Look at this as this a seed that you sow into the soil gives a fruit, right? So whatever seed you sow, that is the fruit you get. Sow in an apple seed, you get an apple. You sow in an orange seed, you get an orange. Maybe you don't like apples, and you may think it to be a punishment, or maybe you love oranges and you may think it to be a reward. But it is neither. It is what you sowed is what you're getting. Similarly, if I do something bad, or that negative energy that I create is going to attract negative energy from the universe. And it's not a punishment, it is what it is.
Okay.
It comes back to us. And so, see, the reason why I feel that I want to resolve everything in this lifetime, yeah, even if it has to happen during end of life or during transition, but I want to resolve it in this lifetime because I don't know what I want to go into the next lifetime absolutely fresh. Yeah. um, Having only positive energy that I can then use to attract the positive energy from the universe. That's why I want to figure out how I can, and that's what my effort has been for quite a while, that I let go of all my attachments, resolve all issues with other people, get an opportunity to experience the divine, that unconditional love, heal myself completely, while in this life or during end of life. Yeah, that's why I never kind of, even in my heart, I don't think of I should go like this. I, whatever way, if I have been able to resolve all this, then I know that I'll go like that. If I've not been able to resolve, I know I may not go like that, and that's fine, because all of that is coming to me to help me resolve all issues. So, in other words, all I'm trying to do is to help you get rid of all the fears. Yeah, fear of pain, fear of illness, fear of disease, fear of how the soul will leave. But some concern is important too. Yeah, that kind of carelessness, that now that I have heard that soul always leaves very easily, yeah, then I don't have to do anything now. In fact, actually think about it, just like you see basketball players will practice something, right? They'll practice putting the ball inside that loop, or any player for that matter practices before the actual game. Say they're practicing for Olympics, and most of them practice for years before that. So if we are going to die anyways, yeah, all of us are going to die. Yeah, that's the truth of life. Yeah, we are not going to die, really speaking. It's the body that's going to die. In other words, we are going to leave this body and transition to the next one. That is the truth of life. Why not we practice that? The more we practice this right now, the more we'll be able to easily get out of this body when the time is right.
Thank you.
Yeah. So how do we do that? Yeah, has complete non-attachment. Yes, Itala. Yeah, go ahead. Itala has a question, right? You can unmute yourself, Itala. You raised your hand, right? Yeah, you'll have to unmute yourself, I guess. Yeah,
Um, okay,
yeah.
now I couldn't do it myself. Okay. Um, one of the questions was when you were talking about the commonalities that we have in our death. Um, you said one of the things, the future was not shown or it was shown.
The future was shown.
The future was shown. And what about the future was shown? I think I heard you say where you are going to go. It was
Yeah,
one of the things. Are you shown where you are going to be a man or a woman or?
correct.
what country are you going to be in? What is it shown? You know?
Correct. So see, the thing is, if for these people who came back, they didn't have total clarity of where they were going. But when we hear from these people who have the ability to talk to spirits, they say that there is a point where the spirit comes to know where it is going, and actually that is also determined based on karmic, on the karmic philosophy, or our karmas. So our karmas determine where we'll be going, what kind of life we're going to have in the subsequent, yeah, birth and beyond. So if
Okay.
so, think of it. Just think of this. If I am nice and compassionate and loving and caring, then what do you think my next life is going to be? Better or worse?
Better.
Exactly. Now, on the other hand, if I'm constantly complaining, constantly trying to hurt others, creating thoughts of animosity, jealousy, hatred, what kind of life am I going to have?
It's going to be worse.
Exactly.
But you also said
Sorry. Say again. Say again.
you said that you were trying to clear all the relationships, all the attachments, and everything before you actually come to the point of dying, making to a transition. So if you are completely clear from all attachments and you have been doing good to the world your whole life, do you have the choice not to come back in another body and just stay there with God?
Oh, that's very beautiful question. Really speaking, see, think of it as this big drama, a big play, and you are an actor. Now, take the example of any good actor that you know of, a Hollywood star, uh,
Hmm.
say Brad Pitt, yeah, or Angelina Jolie. All right, take these examples. All right, where would they like to be? Would they be happier staying at home or being on the stage, on the sets?
Well, we are all changing as we mature and we
No,
grow up and we let go of attachments. We
right,
can
right.
change.
Just an
So I
example.
don't know.
But just an example, of course they will be happy. Say a person who is like a Broadway actor, he'll be happy on the Broadway show, right, when he's performing, rather than being at home. Similarly, we as actors, think of it, when we are coming back into life, one life to the next to the next, actually that's where we are acting, and rest everything with God is backstage, if that makes sense. So backstage is no fun, because there, in a way, we will be living a life of dormancy when the soul is in a seed form. Only when
But
the
you,
soul, yeah, one second. Only when the soul comes inside the body can it express an experience. So coming in the body form is not a wrong thing, not a bad thing. We feel that somehow there is this misconception that life means pain and suffering. Yeah, that's what we.
hmm
This is what we have done to our lives, the modern lives. We have created pain and suffering for ourselves based on our karma. God never created our lives to be like this. Kanisha, you want to say something?
Yeah, and the main reason why it happened is because we forgot our original identity. When we came into this physicality, we forgot our originality. So that's why all this pain and suffering came into our lives. If we continue to stay in this awareness that I am a soul, I am in this physical body,
yeah,
it is the soul who is doing everything, then we will not end up with all this pain and suffering. But
Right. Because,
because we forgot, that's why the pain and suffering came
right.
into our life.
Because when we think of ourselves as souls, what is a soul? Soul is pure consciousness. It's pure love.
yeah, yeah.
So then our actions will also be pure love. Yeah. There are, hey, one second.
Last
Yeah.
Sunday that we don't remember when we come back. So if I don't remember that I have a soul, when I come back, how am I going to experience, oops, um, a better life if I don't know? You know
No,
what I mean?
I know what you mean. Yes, you will know it. So say, for example, you have kind of, it is truly drilled inside you that you are Itala, right? Even in the middle of the night, yeah, somebody wakes you up and asks you, what's your name? You'll say, I'm Itala. So similarly, if we practice soul consciousness so deeply, so intensely, it will become our life. It'll become our expression. And so in the future lifetime when we go, we will be naturally soul conscious. That
Okay,
has to be an experience right now. That has to be our practice right now, that I'm
okay,
totally soul conscious. And so soul means I'm love, pure love. So every activity, every action, every interaction with people around us should be filled with that much of love. And it will
okay,
be. If I'm soul, I am a soul, I am a soul, I am a point of light. So all I have is love for everyone, total acceptance for everyone,
okay.
right?
The last question that I have is you said about this cloud that gets around you and that God's light and love cannot penetrate. I mean, my understanding of God is unconditional love. I mean, it can embrace you and hold you in that love and light no matter what. So I don't understand about the cloud that you're talking about. Who was doing research on that and how did they find out about this cloud? I don't understand.
Okay, no, all right, that's fine. So think of it, I'll give you different examples to help you understand. Right now,
Okay.
you are inside your home, right? The sun out there could be the brightest, 50 degrees Celsius, or 120, 130 Fahrenheit. It may
Uh-huh.
be boiling hot, real bright. If you have these heavy curtains, your windows are closed and heavy curtains across the windows, you'll not even be able to see the sun. Sunlight
Right.
can penetrate into your house. But does that mean that sun's energy is not good enough or something like that? Is it the sun's fault that sun's rays are not penetrating into your house? It's
But
really,
we're talking about God, not the
wait,
sun.
wait,
And
give,
God
wait,
has that ability to embrace you no matter what.
wait. Yeah. Wait. But first answer this question if you can. Yeah, is it the fault of sun or is it your fault that you don't have light inside your house?
My fault it would be if I keep everything closed and dark.
Exactly. Similarly, if we close everything around us, even God's energy cannot penetrate.
I
That
have a hard time with that.
that is why it is said God helps those who help themselves.
Yeah, see? And eventually, yes, we are able to somehow resolve it during the transition, and then we are able to experience God's love. But then it takes quite a bit of time. That's why I said temporarily that cloud creates a feeling of suffering that we are not able to experience God's love. But eventually, everybody is able to. Because yes,
Yeah.
God's energy is that powerful, is able to penetrate through it, but at least some effort you have to do. The soul
Oh
has to be
yeah, of course. I understand that. But
exactly.
the way that you came across was like that is impenetrable. God is just not going to be like that with you because you have this cloud around.
Yes, so think
That
of,
was what I understood from what you
good,
said. And
but you know what does it tells us? That the responsibility lies in me, hmm?
right.
Lies on me really.
Mm-hmm.
That I have to make sure that I don't have that cloud around me.
Right. Okay.
you
Okay.
yeah, you see these dark clouds in the middle of the day, and it's going to rain heavily. You don't see the sunlight.
Right.
The sunlight is not able to penetrate through that. It becomes really dark. It's not sun's fault, it is the clouds that have come in the front of the sun. Similarly, our negative energy, yeah, if we are holding on to it, it will interfere, if not totally stop the penetration, but it will definitely interfere
Okay.
with with God's light to come to us. Do we want that?
No,
Exactly. So what do we have to do?
work our
And,
issues.
Exactly. Resolve
and
our.
that's why I think you said that some souls, they were able to experience God's love and peace after some time, not that moment.
Exactly. Because see, now what happens is soul is free from the body. So it is kind of naturally experiencing soul consciousness. So that state of soul consciousness, sort of the dormant stage, is able to help them resolve that black cloud a little bit. They're able to clear that negative energy a little bit. And so they are able to experience God's love.
And the reason that I'm so passionate about this is because I have experienced that. I have been out of my body. I have been with God. I know how it feels. And the body is totally left behind. And all I experienced was true love and light, unconditional love. It was, I mean, undescribable with words how wonderful it was the experience. And I did not want to come back. And I asked God, can you please let me stay? It feels so wonderful here. I don't want to go back. And he said, no, you have some more work to do. You need to go back.
See? So that was the reason you came back. So we have to resolve things right now. We cannot hope that some miracle will help us clear everything out for us.
Yeah,
We
that's what I'm
ourselves.
working on it.
Wonderful, fantastic. That's the whole purpose of doing these sessions. Yeah.
Okay.
So there are several comments. I think Girish bhai, you want, or Rishita wants to take this.
There is one question from Facebook from Sonam Vich. Can you elaborate how to remove these barriers you talked about to be able to access God's energy? I think you already covered that a little bit, but do you want to answer that maybe little bit? Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. You know, what I answered was this karmic load that we are carrying with us. Yeah, there's so many ways you can kind of explain this, and we have talked so many different times about attachment. That when we are attached to something, say if let's think for a moment that if somebody pours glue on this sofa and I sit on it, then I will be useless, right? I won't be able to go and if somebody rings the bell, could you please mute Itala? And so if somebody rings the bell, I can't go and answer that. Yeah, so I become useless, but also the chair becomes useless. Nobody can sit on it. And if I somehow am able to pull myself up, I'll see that the entire leather will peel off. So similarly, if I'm attached to someone, I'm actually destroying myself, but more importantly, I'm also destroying that other person. I'm not experiencing infinite potential for myself, but I'm not able to, and I'm also not allowing the other person experience his or her full potential. So when I'm not doing that in a way, what happens is, or when I'm doing something which is not allowing them to experience their full potential, means in a way I'm creating a negative karma for them, creating negative energy. That negative baggage, I somehow have to resolve it in this lifetime, end of life, during transition, or the next lifetime. And that's why I want to, Kanishta wants to say something, just 1 second. They say that we are the ones who determine what life we are going to have, where we are going to be born, who are the people who are going to be around us, and so on and so forth. And all this, like I had mentioned earlier, if our energy is very positive in this lifetime, then all that we'll get in the future lifetimes will only be more beautiful, much better. Somewhere people in the world, they cry, right? When their family members are going or as they are transitioning, because somewhere, this is what I feel, this is my theory, that somewhere they have it in their subconscious mind that this person who is dying, my family member who is dying, is not going to have that pleasant a lifetime in the future. Why? Because they haven't done anything to resolve in this lifetime. Make sense? Is it making sense? It is very deep. It's very deep, but take a moment to understand that. Yeah, that if somebody hasn't resolved things in this lifetime, how is the next lifetime going to be happier than this one? And that's why subconsciously people have this fear of death for themselves and for others. And that's why these ancient mystics never feared death, because they had resolved everything. They had lived life so fully, so completely, so meaningfully, that they know, somewhere subconsciously they know that their future lifetime is going to be even more beautiful than this lifetime. Make sense now? Is it making sense now, Somnaji? When I explained? Yeah, wonderful. Kanishta, you were saying something.
Yeah, I just want to tell everyone that there is a book. The name of the book is I Know How to Live and I Know How to Die. So is this book has the teachings of Dadi Janki. She left her physical body a few months ago, but this book will really help you learn how to live and how to die peacefully. So if you want to understand more about this topic that we discussed, you can order this online. It's available online, and those who are local, you can even come here and get this book from us.
Yeah, Dadi Janki was the chief of the Brahma Kumaris for several years, and she just left her body, a mortal coil.
Yeah, she was 103 years old. She
So, yeah, thank you. So, shall we go into a little bit of meditation experience just to end? A few minutes, just few minutes. Yeah, everybody is willing to do that together. Yeah, Itala wants to ask more. Sure, Itala, I respect any question. All right,
What's the
go ahead.
name of the book?
I know how to live, know how to die.
Okay, thanks.
But this book is written by Neville Hodgkinson. He is the one who wrote the book, but he has covered a lot of things that Dadi Janki shared with him.
Okay.
Okay.
There is a one question, brother, from Dr. V. The eternal soul is not limited to a linear path. It sees past, present, and future. Is that correct? Yeah.
So the eternal soul, yes, sees the past, present, and future. Yes, for sure. Yeah, see, what happens is another very good question. See, when we are right now, like I'm sitting here in this room, there is no way for me to know what is happening in the next room, right? I'll have to go into the next room to see what's happening in the next room, unless I have, some sort of X-ray vision, or if the walls are made of glass. But if I can go up a little bit, say if I can rise up, then I can see everything. Like from the drone or an aeroplane, you can see everything so clearly. Right now, what happens is, because we are in body consciousness, we are limited. And so we really can't see the past and the future very well. We try to speculate about the past and the future. And that's why we are not able to live in the present. But we really don't understand past and the future. But as we enter into soul consciousness, and we are able to rise above body consciousness, transcend. I like to use this word transcendence. So that transcendence helps us see everything very clearly: the past, the present, and the future. So, in other words, my present is because of my past, and therefore my future is because of my present. If I'm not happy with my present, all I have to do, instead of crying about my past, is to change my present, and my future will be beautiful too. Okay? All right. So let's do an experience again of the soul leaving the body, the soul transcending the body, a true out of body experience. And I assure you, nothing will happen. You won't die. It's really not easy to die. If you want to die, you won't be able to die. It's honestly not easy because you haven't resolved all the things. So it'll take some time. So for a little bit, just see yourself as a point of light, as a soul, and this soul leaving the body. And as soon as it leaves, it enters into this big realm of positivity, an infinite space filled with pure love, pure energy, infinite potential, infinite intelligence. Soak this positive energy up as much as you want. Experience the reality of this phase. And bring this experience into this moment, into here and now, while you are in this body. And just like all of those people who have had those near death experiences, feel as if you're understanding the true wisdom of life. That you're going away from materialism, that you're going away from negative thinking, from animosity and jealousy and all those negative energies that you have been creating so far. And every moment, all you're expressing is pure love. Pure love for everyone around you, no matter who. It doesn't matter what energy you're receiving. What matters is what energy you are giving out. If they are creating negative energy, they are the ones who have to resolve it before they transition. If you create negative energy, you are the one who has to resolve it before your transition. So, in this moment, as you have brought that immense healing from that world, that realm, feel your entire body beginning to heal, your soul beginning to heal. If there is any negative energy around you, see it all disappearing right now. Not even a speck of negative energy, not even a drop of negative energy that you have in your consciousness now. Om Shanti. Rishita, you can conclude.
It was a wonderful experience. Thank you all for attending, and I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you, Sister Kanishta and Brother Shwetang, for a great session. And also thank you, Sister Swati and Brother Girish, for technological support. What I learned today is that we should always live our life to the fullest and not be afraid of the things we want to be afraid of. So we should overcome our fear. If you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out. You can reach the Brahmakumaris at their email and phone number. Also, as I mentioned earlier, there is a link in the chat that you can fill out. I hope this has been a powerful and insightful experience for you all. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Thank you, Rishita. I appreciate your tying everything all together at the end. I see there is one person who we don't know. The ID says Galaxy Tab A. I think rest of the people we know. We know Nana, we know Nisha Talwar, we know Sarla, we know Jagdish Chawla, and yeah, and we know Vicky, Lashonda, Kiran, of course, Swati, Somnaji, Marshall from Ohio. Hey, Marshall, yeah. And Itala, of course, and Girish. And so all those, all of you we know so well, but there's only one person we don't know. If you want to identify yourself, we would love to know who you are. And in any case, if you can send your email or phone number and things that we'll let you know about future events if you want. Yeah. But if not, then we'll see you again next Sunday, same time with another session. Uh-huh. All right.
Thank you.
Most welcome. Om
Thank you
Shanti.
for that greetings to them.
Thank you all. Om Shanti.
These sessions will be available on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel called as Brahma Kumari South Carolina channel, and these are also available on Facebook. If you're not already friends with us on Facebook, you can become friends, Brahma Kumari South Carolina, and you will have access to all these videos. All
Yeah,
right.
all the details are posted in the chat, so you can note down the numbers on the Facebook details. So you are also in the next session we posted the details, so you can register yourself. Thank you all.
Wonderful.